Hi, this is Andy with One Way Pest Solutions out of Boston, Massachusetts, and you are listening to the world's #1 pest control training podcast, the Pest Geek Podcast with Frank Hernandez.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek podcast. I am Frank Hernandez, your Pest Geek, here discussing all things pest. We want to remind our audience to join in on the revolution. That's right, join in on the conversation, be part of the society. Pest Geek Podcast Listeners Group on Facebook. And we're on YouTube. We're on the web, pestgeekpodcast.com. Check out there the notes, everything that we put into the podcast. They're all on there. And now for today's topic. I have Ethan Vickery of VM Products. Hey, Ethan, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I just got, we got reached out by your people, and we decided, hey, this is be great because, we want to get a lot of different people on here with different products. And I use a lot of your products because I've used your Easy Clean stations for years, and I really enjoy them. And I said, oh, that'd be awesome. And you guys got something really coming up, which is your 15th anniversary?
Yeah, we've been in business for 15 years. Time has flown. I can't believe it's been 15 years. It's been a lot of fun. Been very challenging, but luckily, through a lot of hard work, we've had a fair amount of success, and our product line keeps growing. So we're really excited about the next 15 years.
Yeah, no, that's because we have 15 years in business. We know business stats and startups and things like that. We know that. Most people don't make it past their 5, and the majority don't make it past year 1.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you guys got started in this industry. Getting started with the how did you guys decide to go into this business? How did this whole idea get started?
Well, I got out of college, and luckily I'd had a pretty good job in college. I was working for Bose Speaker Company.
Oh.
And so we were selling the Acoustomass speakers, the little small speakers, and that was when back in the day everybody had the really large furniture-sized speakers, and so Bose built these music theaters all over the country to show people that small speakers could be just as effective as big speakers.
Right.
And so I did that for a couple of years and actually worked for Bose, went and did training at close to their corporate, and they had a really good sales model, and I learned a lot in those first couple of years. And so between that and a lot of dedication and determination, I was actually able to get a pretty good job right out of college. So I got a recruiter, and the recruiter had a job selling in the industry, and so I got the job, and it was an 8-state territory, Texas included. And I worked, the distribution network and pest control companies within that 8 to 10 state area, and that's how I got in the business and learned the business. And at the time, I became pretty good friends with a lot of people in the industry, both on the distributor side and on the PMP side. Obviously, my business partner now is somebody that I called on at the time, and we became friends. And along the way, I actually had a lot of friends doing a lot of different things in IT, healthcare, and had an opportunity to take a position in healthcare. And so I decided, well, this was a fun first job, but I'm going to see what healthcare looks like. And so I went into healthcare and did that for about three and a half years, if I'm not mistaken. And healthcare was good. I was pretty successful at it, but it just wasn't a passion thing for me. And one of the things that I loved about the professional pest control market is the accessibility to the customer and being able to work with the customer day in and day out. Healthcare is not quite as accessible and has a different feel than what pest control does. And so in email that a guy from the guy who started Outsmart ant bait, which to my knowledge is the original boric acid sweet ant bait, had passed away, and the formula went with him, and I got an idea that maybe I could make this ant bait. And I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family, lots of entrepreneurs in my family, so I just said, you know what, I'm going to try to make this ant bait. And so started working on the ant bait, and realized how hard that was going to be. And I found a chemist though, and the chemist and I were sitting there talking, and we were having a conversation about the ant bait, and I looked down and there was a bait station, and I said, I used to sell bait stations. He looked at me and said, it'd be a lot easier to make that bait station than it's going to be able to make this ant bait. And from there I started thinking about, well, maybe I ought to make a bait station. So I thought about that, and this took time. This was over a fairly long period, probably at least a year and a half of me playing with it. Still working in healthcare. And like I said, I didn't even think about doing anything in the industry till probably 2.5, 3 years after I left the industry, and so was looking at the ant bait. Went to the station, had some friends that were in the business still, and we got to talking, and one of them in Dallas was a big commercial service manager, branch manager, and I went to talk to him about it, and he looked at me and he said, all I know is someone needs to make a bait station that's easy to clean, because that's all the auditors care about is bait stations that are clean. And at the time, there was not a bait station that was easy to clean, and there you go, it was the easy clean. And so that's kind of how I started. And I wrote a business plan, and I thought to myself, well, how would I fund this? And I actually put a fair amount of money in it myself, a lot of time and effort into it. But obviously, it was a much bigger endeavor than that. So pest control operators, I had a couple friends and thought processes on pest control companies that I thought might be good opportunities. And then along the way, trying to find an injection molder, I actually found an injection molder that was owned by a private equity company. And they were actually interested in doing something too as well. And so, as a result, they offered some money, and then I thought, well, do I want to do that, or do I want to be with somebody who knows the business a little bit better? And from there, Danny and I had been friends, Myers Pest Control, and he had a nice commercial operation, so he knew a lot about, rodent stations and commercial work. And so we started having a conversation, and that was that. We decided to do it. And then, 15 years later, here we are.
Yeah, let me ask you this. That's an important thing that a lot of guys in the industry partnering up with somebody else. Everybody pretty much either does their own thing or they get investors or do something. But you got a partner who had the experience in the field. And what was it about you two guys, that you said, hey, I can trust you. We can do this together. What was the chemistry like? What was that experience like in building this company?
Well, I was pretty young when we started the company. So, I was about 30 or 31 years old. I was 31, I think. And so, not that 31's overly young, but 31 to be in a business trying to invent a product and, learn how to manage financials, there's a lot to it. And the mentorship, again, was a really important piece of our success. And, we were friends. On Danny in the early days when I was, working in the chemistry, kind of similar backgrounds. His family, and he sold and serviced his first route in summer, and feeling to both people wanting to move in the same direction, and so that part, actually the getting along part, was easy. It wasn't always easy to get through how are we going to make this successful business. Like any partnership, there's days where you go, okay, here's hard decisions that we have to make, and you have to both be on the same page. And I think the biggest thing is neither one of us are greedy, and so it was never about greed or money. It was about success. and we both of us felt that that if we were dedicated and determined, the success would come, and with the success would be the opportunity to have profits. And so that allowed us to get through the early days, and then we kept grinding. And so in the beginning, it was a lot of mentorship, and then we got to a level of success, and at the time Danny was still growing his business. And so then for several years in the middle of before he sold his business, I pretty much did everything myself. Once I learned how to get through the initial stages of managing a business, managing P&Ls, paying bills, understanding just being in business, there was a 3 or 4 or 5 year period there where then I took over the bulk of everything we were doing, and I grew that, and then at some point he sold the business, and it's been kind of a second take for him, but for the most part, on the business itself, we've always worked together, and it's always been good, and so we were always able to find a good happy ground, and as it turns out, I can make stuff, and so I do what I do every day. I run the business, I make stuff, and then in the interim, we're always talking through it from kind of a board of directors type of a thought process. We maybe have the same conversation 3 or 4 times to make sure that we end up with the best result. So, which is what you do in business. I mean, if you want to build a business, your first thought's not always your best thought. Sometimes it is, but you gotta think through it, and it's always great to have partners and mentors that, as you're talking through what your opportunities and your risks are, that you come up with the best decision for the success of your business or the product, or obviously in pest control operators, they're always trying to come up with new lines, new opportunities to sell more service, and it's the same concept. You have opportunities for wins and you have opportunities for losses, and your goal is to have a lot more wins than you have losses.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, number one rule in business, don't lose money.
That's right.
Yeah,
but hey, we all do sometimes, right? That's part of it. I mean, you're going to fail sometimes in business. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, tell me about it. I've had a lot of wins and a lot of losses. Luckily, it at the end it washes out, and we can still make a profit. But yeah, no, that's one of the challenges that I see, that a lot of guys want to grow, but a lot of guys in the industry don't understand business. They understand pest control. They understand how they got into pest control. They understand, the service part. They understand the sales part, but they don't understand the actual growing of a business. A lot of them get frustrated, don't want to grow. They because they're dealing with the employee issues. That's not their strong thing. They're not good at the whole HR thing, the whole financial thing. It's not their thing. And bringing on a partner is scary. But the way I've looked at it is I've kind of got the same mentality as from what you're expressing, that it's about creating a great company, creating a great product, creating something great, more than about the money. That's one of the things that a lot of people lose sight of, that they just think about the money and not think about creating something great that is going to last. And I guess that's where a lot of them get into trouble in that aspect. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think that's just vitally important. And if you want to create a real business, a real company, that you focus on creating.
And I will say that Danny, when he was in business, he always had groups of other peer pest control companies, and they were all growing together. And that's the success of business is those peer groups and your ability to learn from other people's mistakes. It's just a great platform to help you get to the next level. Several people within the manufacturing world that I'm constantly talking to and saying, what do you think of this concept? I mean, we only bring better products for the industry because we have a network of people that help us get to that point. I mean, that's in manufacturing. Not that obviously on the chemical side, the big pharmaceutical style companies in our business, they are inventing new chemistry. But on the device side, we're taking a piece of plastic or a piece of metal. We're taking technology that most likely existed somewhere else in some other industry long before it existed in pest control, and then we're making that product fit the application, not only for the species that we're going after, but functional use for the pest control companies, their technicians, and then the account, right? I mean, accounts have demands too as well, especially in the commercial world. You have to take all that into account and come up with the right product, and you have to have people in and around your business that can help you get into that sweet zone of getting all of those factors, functional so that you can have a successful product in our industry. And that's not the easiest thing to do. I mean, a lot of people put a lot of money in products for our industry that never come to fruition because those things aren't so easy to accomplish.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. It's difficult to figure out what the next need is going to be or how to actually provide that need, and especially with a lot of people just have these basic individual needs, that it's going to cost a fortune to create a product just for them to be able to do it. So that's that's nice to understand from a manufacturer's perspective. A lot of times we ask manufacturers to do a lot of things for us, and we can't realize why they can't do it or why they don't do it. And I think it's having these conversations to help us understand each other and help us understand what it is your process to get something accomplished and how long it might take. It might be years before you're able to accomplish it. Greatly helps us. So I do appreciate that. I wanted to ask about, because I've used your Easy Clean station for years. What do you got coming out? You've got a couple of nice things that I haven't seen with any other manufacturer. And a lot of them are the you got a new station coming out that you can use with full glue boards. You also have the little straps and integrated snap traps. So take me through a couple of your new revolutionary products that you have that are kind of different than everybody else's.
Well, the Easy Snap line, which is one of our newer lines, is an integrated snap trap, and I kind of call it Ratatouille because it really came from conversations. My engineer, we have a nice table that we sit around. I say nice table; it's a nice big table that we have products kind of spread out on, and we really just started having a conversation of what ifs. And so we had the taller Easy Snap Rat that we had made for a project, and we were sitting there. We had some snap traps on a table, and we were pushing the snap traps around, and they were loose in the station. And I thought, well, I looked at him and said, I wonder if we attach the snap trap to the station, which is, not a foreign concept. I mean, people are attaching snap traps to, several, there's lots of different products, whether it's, being able to attach it to a tray, to zip tie it to something, or in Europe, they're attaching snap traps in different ways to a lot of different, whether it be a bait station or different tools to get a more effective result. And I said, what if we attach this snap trap to the base of the bait station? And then we did it, and all we did is a screw and just a nut and bolt basically. And I'm like, that's probably kind of cool. And so we were sitting there talking, and then we started, well, what about the kill bar and how you set the trap? And so then we started talking about a zip tie. And so we got a zip tie, and we cut a hole in the top of the station, ran the zip tie through the top of the station, and pulled on it. And I'm like, oh, that works pretty good. That's a pretty good idea. And so we played with that, and then we're continued to talk, and we're talking about the zip tie, and it'd be nice if you knew if the snap trap went off. And so we said, well, let's dye the zip tie. And so we dyed the zip tie. We originally started with red and green. And the original color wasn't the best color, and we screen printed it, and the dye wouldn't stay on it. And then we said, well, maybe we'll make it safety yellow. It's easier to see. And anyway, figured out how to dye the zip tie. And then along the way, we decided we needed to make it removable because obviously the snap trap could break or it needs to be cleaned. And so with the screw, the nut and bolt thought process, that became incredibly more difficult to clean because you couldn't get the snap trap out of the station easily. So then we invented our removable plug system, and we just ended up with a product line. And so, I mean, that's how a lot of times good products happen, is through a lot of conversations and needs. Pest control operators generally, all of us, especially the rat snap traps, can be very, very intimidating for your fingers. Nobody wants a broken thumb. And so, the force of the snap traps, there's some intimidation factor there. And so the zip tie was a really nice piece. If there is a dead rodent in the box, we'd like to know before we open the box. The two-color zip tie allows us to see that there's something that's happened to the snap trap. So that was a nice benefit. And then as we moved through it, the integrated part of the snap trap, we felt like had some value from the zip tie and holding the snap trap in place. But I think what's happening is you're seeing that it also has just a lot of good service value too as well. And there's a lot of feedback that it's a very effective tool in the field versus a freestanding snap trap. So the integrated snap trap concept, I think, will grow in our industry as time goes on. And I think that over time, the thought process of just putting a snap trap out that's not integrated and not in the station, will dwindle, and people will move more towards the integrated snap trap station because there's a lot of really good benefits to integrating the snap trap to the station. So we then took it from the rat, we put it on a block. The block stations have been very popular in California because of the limiting of rodenticide activity in California. Also in commercial accounts past the 100 feet where you've got a fence line and you can't bait. It's a nice tool to use there because you can see the zip tie, so you can see from a service perspective where you've had activity. So that grew. Then we decided to do the mouse, and the mouse has got 2 snap traps in it, and the mouse has been pretty successful too. And then from there, we just kept playing. We're now with the Easy Snap Seeker, and that Seeker stands for Seek Out the Source, and it's designed so that if you've got rodents that are, everybody calls them roof rats, and I think a lot of times they are, but I think a lot of when I call, in this case, a roof rat, what I'm saying is anything that's in a drop-down ceiling, pipe chases, basically up in a building, which is roof rats, but also you have Norway rats that will live in those areas too as well. But the ability to service those accounts, both from, do I need to zip tie it to a pipe chase? When I push over a drop-down ceiling, I get up on a ladder, I've got my flashlight, can I quickly see which stations have gone off with the zip tie? So that the Seeker, the Easy Snap Seeker, really makes that opportunity to go in those accounts and use a tool that makes your life easier and more effective as a PMP. Has been a really good product too as well. So the Snap line is a great line, and we're going to continue playing with it until we get it exactly the way we want it. And we think that long term it'll be a core category in the PMP's arsenal of products that they use.
Yeah. So in these stations, about the issue with recoil and the use of the spring and things like that. Explain a little bit to me about how that, how that works in with your station, or what's the thought or the science behind that.
So when you put a rat snap trap out, and I think we've got a lot of work to do on this, and I think that it's a very interesting concept that in talking to an industry colleague, we were talking about snap traps and talking about, when a snap trap goes off, how violent it is, and we were playing with it, and my colleague in the industry that is a rodent guy too as well, and he said, trap, which direction it's going, away from. So when you look at a snap trap, it goes off and it goes up in the air, and typically, goes, depending on the trap, goes anywhere from, an inch to 2 or 3 inches in the air, and it has the recoil takes the snap trap in a crazy direction, right? So they're all a little bit different. Some of them will go straight back, straight up, sideways, but bottom line is that the recoil takes the trap in potentially a direction away from the rodent's head. And so it's an interesting thought process that when you take the snap trap and attach it to the base of the bait station, it forces the recoil into the base of the snap trap. It doesn't allow it to take that force and push the snap trap up in the air like we've all seen, especially rat. More rat than mouse, I think. But so it's an interesting concept, the recoil concept, and I think it's something that over time, as people play with the trap, they can see with their own eyes and go, okay, well, if I put it in a station and I make it integrated to the station, then I have the ability to push all of the force into of the snap trap into the base where the trigger zone where that rodent's head's at. So I think there's a lot of fun to be had there in the next couple of years as we play with it. And from our original rollout to now, the feedback from everybody who's played with the product is that the effectiveness of the product is there, and we think that there might be even more there from a science perspective. And over time, I guess you'll see whether we show that or if we don't show that.
Wow, that just see, because I know that happens because I seen it, but you never see it when it's actually like on a camera on a slow, to see that what actually happens when a rat gets trapped and how that reacts and possibly losing that rat. So that's really, really neat that's been observed. Let me ask you this though, on your blocks, you've got your weighted stations. You've done some studying with that as far as what absorption rates or things like that. Because I did do a test where I put in your station against another station that had another block. And I noticed that I was getting more activity with your station, more hits, and they were like really close together with the same product, same bait.
That's good news.
Yeah, and I did notice that.
I like to hear that.
Yeah, and I asked the other rep, and I said, listen, I'm getting more hits with this other station in the same location when I first introduced your station, and it's about half. And he said, it can't be. It's, we've tested it. I said, we're getting hits, but I noticed that with your station, and then you brought up something. So I wanted to talk about that, of the studies you've done to show that, and talk to me about that issue.
Well, we've never done a full rodent study, so let me just say that, just to be clear. So it was not a rodent study. It was a study based on a conversation that I had with somebody in Europe about familiarity of the station. So basically, it's a scientist in Europe that looked at the more familiar the odors were in and around the station, the more activity they saw in some of the testing that they did. So just the familiar scent, which makes complete sense, right? Obviously, rodents, they live in an area. They're, especially rats, are very neophobic. And so the familiar scent is an important piece. When you look at bait, it's all about scent, right? We're trying to get the rodent into the box. The better the scent, the better the palatability of the bait, the more opportunity you have to get the rodent in the box. And when you think about, the correlating aspect of a rodent lives in soil, lives in a wall, they live in an earthy area where bait stations go, typically are almost always outdoors for bait. You have a rodent that's living in that environment, and that's the odor that they're used to. And so it's an interesting thought process on thinking of it that way. And so one of the studies that we could do that was fairly simple along that line is looking at a block when we put the block out. what happens to the block itself? Leave the bait station out of it. What happens to the block itself when you put it out? And so one of the things that, was observed. So give me the idea of what does a block look like on its own just when you put it out. And so we had the only real thing that we could test on concrete was a concrete study. So I reached out to my concrete manufacturer and, hey, what can we do with playing with the concrete as far as the test goes? And he said, well, one of the studies they do in the pipe world, when you put roads down and there's for water and sewer, they put pipe in, as we've all seen when they do road construction, and they do an absorption rate study to see how much the pipe will absorb moisture when it's in the environment that's being put in. So we based it on that. So the study was based on a concrete study, and we did a study on absorption rate. So meaning that if moisture is present, so obviously moisture has to be present. If moisture is present, and you put if you put the station in or the concrete block in an area where moisture is present, what we found was that the block took on a 7% weight factor of water that was in and around the block. And so the absorption rate study was pretty interesting because it just showed that the concrete block acts like a sponge and absorbs what's around it. And so from a rodent's perspective, the interesting thought process is does the block absorb what's around it, the moisture around it, and then by default it ends up being more the odor from the block is more familiar to the rodent. And I think that has something to do with what you just said, where if you did a blind study, side by side and activity went up, there might be some other factors associated to, the way that you enter the box, the baffling system, the height. I mean, obviously, there's a lot that goes into the science of getting a rat to the actual bait. But we definitely think that, from feedback and from what we've played with, that the block is absorbent, and it is concrete in general is a sponge, and so it just absorbs that odor. So if you have it in mulch and grass around structures, it's taking that odor on. And, with rodents, it's hard to scientifically prove, exact details, but logically, from the thought process of rodents loving the scents that they're used to, there's an argument that could help get rodents into the station. Yeah. But again, what we tested was absorption. So we showed that the block gets heavier when exposed to moisture.
Gotcha. Okay, yes, because we when we switch products all the time, and we're observing things in the field, they're like, man, something is, they're not going in, or why, it could be that, they just got that station was there for a year. It became, familiar sense and thing. And then we have this brand new station that we just put next to it, and maybe it hasn't. And they're like, they prefer the other one because the other one has been existing. So that's an interesting thing to observe for PMPs to go on the field. If you're installing new stations, what are you observing in acceptance of what's going on around you. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, no. Let me ask you this.
Well, and I will.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will say this too. I mean, one of the most difficult parts about any product that we make in this industry is, all the manufacturers are trying to make something that'll fit, every market in the world.
Right.
Obviously you prefer to make one product. When you start thinking through, what that looks like from, the Midwest to the Southeast to the Southwest to the Pacific Northwest to the Northeast to the South Central to the Caribbean to, you start going through and you're trying to make a product fit into all of those slots. And it's not the easiest thing to do. And the reason why is because there are subtle differences in, different parts of the country that make certain things, more accepted, not just in the rodent categories of products that we use. I think 90% of everything we use in our universal to the area that you're in, but there is a percentage job that you do that you're in, and that's the hardest part about being a manufacturer in this business, really you're trying to, get into a narrow zone of the pest control's needs, and then also on top of that, you got geographical issues too as well that you have to deal with.
Yeah, and as far as species goes, I mean, discuss like what's more prevalent. Like if you've got one type of rodent in one area, and then you've got mice, or you've got another thing in different regions, or even different parts of the world where you might not have the same species that you have where you're at. Difficulties with that. What have you experienced?
I mean, it's really just about, certain areas definitely have more mice than certain areas that have different types of rodents that are not overly common in other areas.
What do you got? I mean, you got some new products that you got launched. You've got I really like that station where you can put a full size rat glue board in there, because I haven't been able to do that in the past, and I've had to buy stations with inserts, remove the inserts to be able to put something like that in there. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's the Easy Versa, and it's the same box as our Seeker. However, it is designed, does not come with the snap trap and the glue board, the zip tie. And it's got removable walls in it, and it's designed to put a rat glue board in it. So when you think about food processing, oftentimes in food processing, a 10 cat's not your answer, right? Or 10 cat type product, because you have bigger problems with rats than you do mice. And if you have a rat problem, very few rats are going to make it into a teeter-totter mouse trap. And so that product was really kind of for that type of market where I've got, I need to have a monitoring device that I can use that's serviceable for rats. And so by being able to put the rat glue board in the station, and it'll fit pretty much any rat glue board I could find on the market. So I don't think there's any board you would buy that it wouldn't fit it. But I can put a rat glue board in it, and I can use it as a monitoring tool. And we just saw that as a benefit to the marketplace, and we didn't see it out there. And so when we started working on that product, that was a big part of what we wanted it to be used for, is in food processing for rat glue boards. And I think that our initial feedback is that it's a very versatile and useful tool for people in the commercial world that need a station for that. And to your point, I didn't find anything that existed, and so we try to come up with the best possible scenario we could for the industry. And I think it's a very useful tool, and the sales thus far and the people are using it, we're getting really good feedback from it.
Yeah, no, because like I said, I got commercial accounts where that's been an issue, where I have to put large glue boards, and it's been a mission. I haven't been able to do it, and I got to put them out in the open. I can't put them in a station, or I got to get something else. So I think that is a major, just a simple thing like that. I mean, talk about the simplicity of just making a box that you can stick a glue board in, and it solves that big of an issue. And then, we've waited until now in the industry to get something like that. This is what I'm talking about. It's just sometimes the simplicity or the complexity of something to get something simple done. And that's a major. So I'm sure a lot of guys are going to get a lot of use of that. And you've got some high-tech product, some Wi-Fi, because, I'm a techie guy, and a lot of the guys out there are techie guys. And I think this is a valuable tool. Talk us about a trap that's hooked up to Wi-Fi. All right. So what's up with that?
So we have our new Easy Square line, which we're really excited about, and it is a trap that's simple and easy to use. Has a very easy user interface. You associate the trap to a Wi-Fi or a Wi-Fi hotspot. Associate the trap to your phone. The app is very pest control centric, so it allows you to identify a customer, a site, and a location.
Wow.
Meaning I have fast food restaurant at site number 222. The location's back door drop down ceiling, right? So the application's very simple and easy to use, but yet works with your needs and demands as far as servicing that account goes. You associate the trap to your phone, to the Wi-Fi or the hotspot, and when the snap trap goes off, you get an alert. It does not necessarily guarantee you have a rat, obviously, so very useful tool, especially in hard to get places, to do an attic clean out, and you know that you need to go back to that house multiple times to get rid of the rodent. It allows you to be more flexible with your time and your schedule because you know when the snap traps went off. But the Easy Square, which we're adding to our website, and is basically for sale now. We just got it in stock in the last week, so in the next couple of weeks we're ready to sell it and get it out in the field. But it is an incredible tool to use. It's a new thought process for PMPs that in the beginning, I believe most pest control operators will, like most products, they'll play with it. They'll see where it works in their business. They'll figure out how they want to sell it, figure out how their technicians will interact with it, and then they'll start to scale it from there. But I will say it's very technician friendly, very easy to use. Alerts are only as valuable as what you can do with the alerts, and that's why a user platform is important, so that you know where the alert came from, and what you're going to do with that alert. So, I mean, again, obviously, if you put 4 snap traps in a facility, you need to know which one went off, right? I mean, snap trap 1, 2, 3, or 4 doesn't do you much good. But knowing that it was the drop down ceiling, or it was behind the oven, or in the void behind the pantry, or whatever it might be, knowing where that alert's at, so that you can focus your efforts and your energy to where the activity's at, is an incredibly important part too as well. So it's got a good user interface. It's got rat. We do have a mouse version that'll come too as well in the next couple months. So it is rat and mouse, and so very excited about that product. And that's in our technology line. We have a VM Now line, which is for food processing. As the food processing world adopts more technology, the VM Now is very specifically geared towards that market. But we do have an overall R&D project in this category that we're going to continue to drive innovation, and hopefully bring the industry tools that make them more effective and their service protocols, but at the same time, give them a better result as far as catching rodents.
Yeah, no, one of the things that I look at this, and my mind is always working like at 100 miles an hour. And I, a lot of guys are going to see is I don't see any value in having a snap trap that tells you when it goes off, because most of them might be doing just a residential job, or they're doing, but in highly sensitive accounts that, you've got an issue that, this has to be solved like quickly. You're going there on a daily basis, checking these traps, and because they have to be checked daily. This is an enormous tool that, if like it hasn't gone off, why are we going to go there? So if one's gone off, then we know we have to go. We can save the trip or be very efficient, or in a very sensitive account where the client says, hey, I need this thing done quickly. That's where I think the value is, or for clients is, hey, even as a PMP selling, rodent jobs for a client that, is going to be up in an attic and they're choosing between you and another company. Selling that technology is saying, listen, we don't have to charge you for an extra trip coming over here. We will know when it goes off, and that rat won't sit up in your attic for 2 days and it won't smell. I think those are the things that we need to look at application and how to be marketers with this and have the edge versus our competition.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think, again, like I said, I think the important thing is to put some in stock, in your chemical room, and have them start playing with them, start using them, and learn to understand them. Obviously technology lives around us in every respect, from phones to drive cams to GPS on vehicles to operations software to our computers. Just goes on and on and on how we use technology, and we just have not used it in the service protocol for most PMPs, and what will happen is your PMPs will have to find their way with it. Obviously, we've got some good advice, and we'll continue to give good advice on how we think PMP might use it or should use it. But as in all things, the customer, the PMP will find ways that it fits their business and makes their customer happy, makes their businesses more profitable, and more effective at what they do. But I think that is, that's an adoption. So it'll take a little bit of time. To your point of saying, well, why would I want that? Let's just say you don't want it, but you better figure out why you don't want it before you say you don't want it. So that's my thought on it. I think it's really important to play with it, and that feedback will come back, and the product will evolve. It truly is a more beneficial tool than what they're currently using.
No, I agree. The technology. I mean, we're to the point where I'm starting to use Wi-Fi cameras where we didn't have before, to kind of understand what is happening and going, oh, that's why we're not catching that, or that's why this is going on, or this is how they're getting in, and we're not able to be on site, but we can install Wi-Fi cameras now. That would be a really cool thing, to be able to put a Wi-Fi camera with the snap trap that goes, together.
Yeah, it would be.
And we can observe, what the heck the rodent is doing and understanding that. And we're starting to use that now. It wasn't available before. It is now. So I think, having that, being on the cutting edge, a company that is on the cutting edge of the technology, as the products become available, and offering them to the clients and making that available, I think, gives you that upper hand in the competitiveness that we're in. I mean, I'm in a hyper competitive market. I'm in the top 6 market in the U.S. This is Miami. It's very, very cutthroat. We got to figure out a way to find that client that, wants a company that's like ours, that's responsible, that is doing things that nobody else is doing, because there is a market for it. So in our case, not in the industrial end of maybe a food packager or a hospital or a very sensitive facility, we do have clients that do want this kind of stuff, and they'll pay for it. So it's just finding them and developing a product for them. And I think that's the exciting part, that this stuff is happening, that we're finally getting.
Well, and expand your reach too. I mean, you may have certain areas where you may have a customer where you're trying to build a route, and but you don't really have the density to get your technician there as fast as you want. By using technology, even if you don't fully charge the customer for it, it allows you to sell some business that you might not have sold otherwise. So there's ways to play with the product that will make sense to PMPs, and they will evolve with it, but it'll be an evolution. It won't happen overnight, and I know that, and we're patient with the product line. The best part about buying, I think, this category from us is going to be, we are patient with the product line. We're going to listen to the PMP's needs, and we will evolve the product accordingly. Now, there are some things that we can't control, right? We can't really control communications. We can't control it, right? You have Wi-Fi, you have cell towers. Right. And that's really the only 2 ways that you get communication today, right? So, or 3. You have a hard line, which we're not going to use, old school phone line. Right. You have the cellular network, and you have Wi-Fi. Well, nobody in the pest control industry is going to reinvent a communication network, right? So there's certain things and costs associated to electronic rodent monitoring that are far out of our control. Batteries, right? I mean, batteries are what they are. I mean, there's only a certain amount of people that make batteries in the world. I can't go reinvent the battery market. I have to take, what's given to me with communications, what's given to me with batteries, and try to get the best result for our industry. But I can't control that stuff. So certain things that the PMP may want may be out of my control or any other manufacturer's control, because we're just not there yet. Right. And prices are, associated to some of those pieces, right? I can't overcome that, to buy a Wi-Fi enabled chip for a motherboard just costs what it costs, right? I mean, and so there's certain pieces that there's just only so much we can do. And as technology evolves for the Internet of Things, all of these devices will become much more effective and cost effective. But the Internet of Things internet doesn't exist yet. And until it does, this category will slowly grind towards its adoption in the marketplace. But when the Internet of Things internet exists, which manufacturers of the internet are madly working to get to that point, whether it's GE or Siemens or the big Qualcomms of the world, are trying to build out that infrastructure because they want to connect all these enabled devices. They want to connect TVs and refrigerators and RAT devices, and you just go down the list of everything that people want to enable, thermostats, and we need the Internet of Things to get that where it truly is integrated into society. And the moment that does exist, PMPs will use a lot of enabled devices because that will be the expectation, and the technology will allow manufacturers to give them products that they understand at a price point they can afford. That's the future, and it's just going to take a little time to get there.
Right.
I think there's a way from getting to that point, but you don't want to be behind the eight ball or played with it, even if it's only for, like you said, a couple sensitive accounts. The best way I can liken this is when LEED certified structures came out. PMPs didn't know how to service a LEED, and LEED had their own expectations for everything, and the pest control industry had to figure out how to service what those prevalent category, and PMPs built services structures, and technology will be the same way.
Right. No, definitely we're and we got limited use. I mean, you're thinking about it that it's only useful for that specific use. That equipment isn't allowed to be used and say, okay, we can now plug it in to an animal trap, or we can, it's not a multi-use unit. It's only to a mouse trap. So it has a limited application. And, obviously it's like, the diffusion of innovation as the product becomes more accepted and you can make it cheaper or sell more of it, then, or find other applications for it, then it becomes more accessible. So yeah, I'm an early adopter. So, pretty much anything that's new in the market, I'm like, hey, I'm salivating. So, but that's just me. I mean, a lot of people just are very slow to react to new technology. Me, we'll find a way to be first and put it out there in the marketplace first. So I'm excited about it. I really am. Question is, do you have anything that we have discussed or we haven't discussed that you would really like to talk to the audience about that, that I haven't asked you or haven't come across?
You know what? I don't think so. We've covered quite a bit here, so it's been a good conversation. I would just say that, from an innovation perspective, VM, we're committed to innovation, committed to the industry. I'm at a point in my life where, this is my home. This is this is the place that I found that, I think I'm pretty good at what I do most days. But I see value in what we do as an industry as it relates to humanity. And, it's in conversations with people over the years, something that's, popped into my head that multiple times that I think is fairly true. When you think about, people living to 65, 70, 80 years old and beyond, where they didn't 150, 200 years ago, a couple, if not, the two most important key factors, in my opinion, in that is antibiotics and pesticides. Our ability to control insect populations worldwide is a key component to longevity of life. And I take a lot of pride in what we do as an industry. I'm committed to finishing my career in this business and usually bringing things that is on the mission of what the professional pest is, safety and health. And I takes a lot of pride in that, and it's a lot of fun to wake up every day and go to work.
No, it is. I really thoroughly enjoy what I do and what we're doing as we're innovating and bringing better products that for our clients here too, and companies that are bringing the products. Is really, we can't do our job unless somebody really brings a product to market like you. So, I really do thank a lot of the manufacturers, yourself, for being innovative and bringing new products that we can offer our clients and new solutions. because we're really limited by what we can provide. And so as newer products come out, I get really excited to see, what we can do. So thank you for what you're doing, for what your company's doing. If people want to get a hold of you guys or get a hold of you, what's the best way to do something or get a hold of you?
The best thing to do is go to our website. All of our sales reps are there, and there's a contact us page. And if somebody has a request, then it'll go directly to the person that can answer the request. So our website has a lot of really good resources. If you go on, we've got pictures, product information, and then of course contact information that's to the company as well as to the individual region where our reps are at. And so if they need us, just go to our website and we will be happy to help with anything they need. And so the website's the best way to go.
Excellent. No, I thank you for the time. Thank you. I know you're traveling. I know you're busy getting stuff done. So thank you for being on the podcast. And, we'll see what talk in the future, see what new products come out. Feel free to come back. If you got anything new, we'd love to have you. Perfect.
Sounds great. Well, I appreciate it. And as we have new stuff, we will be in touch.
All right, Ethan. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great one.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. Until next time, have a pestacular day.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.